Hey everybody, Jim Masters here at the Jim Masters Show, entertainment, lifestyle, celebrity talk show series. You are in for a treat. We have somebody very special joining us. A lot of people grew up with him, a tremendous actor, writer, director as well. Also an AOD counselor, an activist, very involved in the community and very inspired person, empowering others. But of course, a lot of people remember him as Jody on the incredible series Family Affair in the late 60s, early 70s. We're talking about the one and only Johnny Whitaker is joining us here on the show. Really fantastic to have him here. We're very excited to welcome him in just a second. Again, you remember him from Family Affair, right? Absolutely. But not just Family Affair. Oh boy, he was in so many other great shows and series and specials. You do remember, of course, when he was in Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, right? That, of course, the Sid and Marty Krofft series. Did you also remember that he was Scotty Baldwin on General Hospital? Yeah. He was also in the movie The Russians Are Coming. The Russians Are Coming. These are just some of the incredible things that he was a part of throughout his career. But look at this. Yeah, remember Family Affair? Everybody grew up with that series. And he worked with so many incredible other actors and actresses. It's been a very interesting story and a fantastic life lived that continues to inspire others through his work, his continued work. And we're so excited to have an opportunity to celebrate Johnny Whitaker here on the show. So thanks for tuning in, folks. I am your host, Jim Masters. We're going to kick things off right now, coming to us from sunny California, our great friend of the show, Johnny Whitaker, joining us here. Johnny,
Hello.
Welcome to the show. How are you?
Very good, thanks. Good to see you, Jim.
It's good to see you as well. It's a real honor and a pleasure, and I really appreciate
Now, you don't look old enough to know me.
Boost the lighting up even more, folks. Thank you. What a great way to start a show. New best friend. Johnny, how are you and have you been of late?
Oh, I am. Well, I was just laughing with you before backstage that as we get a little older, we are not as spry as we used to be. And as gentlemen, sometimes we get up a couple times in the night to take care of business. And I've got diabetes, and I also have a little high blood pressure. And those two together, when I got up from taking care of business, I fainted and fell on my bathtub, the side of my bathtub. And so I'm still kind of getting over that. But other than that, I am 97%.
Well, we're glad to hear that. And you look like $1 million, my friend.
Thank
you
you.
know, I really appreciate you taking time because I know you're very busy. You do such, and we'll get into it. You do such beautiful work that empowers and inspires others. And you've been so open about sharing your life experiences. And I think that's very inspiring because people know you from so many fantastic shows and specials and films, but you're also a real person. You're authentic and you've always been approachable. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Early on for you, did a little research. Weren't you singing in a choir and in church and perhaps might have forgot the words of one of the songs, and that sort of sparked the ad-libbing and knowing how to be impromptu and diving right in with the family especially?
Yeah, well, my mother was the junior Sunday school chorister, and in the LDS church every October, we have the junior Sunday school presentation. During that, the congregation, you know, it's just the entire hour is just the kids singing and sharing testimony and all of that. And my sisters learned the verses and the the words to the 3 verses and the chorus, and a little girl was supposed to sing the verses, and then my sisters would join in 3-part harmony in the chorus. But the little girl got sick, and I was the only other kid that kind of knew the words because I'd been practicing with my sisters. But when it came time to sing, my sisters was a little bit nervous that I'm 3.5 years old. Can he really do it? And I guess I did. But I sang the first verse perfectly, and then the second verse, the words weren't coming into my head. And then I just started ad-libbing, and my sisters were elbowing me and saying, that's not the way you do it. And I just said, leave me alone. Just smile. There's people
like,
out there.
Just like sisters would do, right?
Right. I said, there's people out there looking at us. We don't want to look stupid. So just smile and go along with it.
So you were already cognizant.
Was laughing,
yeah,
and crying and thinking it's pretty cute.
You were already
and I got the third verse right,
which is fantastic. You were already aware of placement and event and what had to transpire, and that you just keep things going in a forward movement early on, huh?
Well, it was just, I guess. It was just natural for me.
Yeah.
To, people are looking at you, and you're performing. And I mean, from the time before I could remember, we were always singing and performing in front of, my brothers and sisters. I'm one of 8 children. I am the youngest of the first group, which was 5 kids, and I'm the oldest of the second group, which is 4 kids. But 5 and 4 is 9. It wasn't that. I was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I was 5, 6, 7, 8. And but all the time at Christmas, whoever was the youngest was the baby Jesus, and whoever was the oldest was Mary and Joseph. And, I played Jesus a couple times, and then my sister became Jesus, and then my little brother became Jesus. But, we always did that. And whenever the family was together, we would always sing together, and just was kind of natural. And now I'm singing and performing, but now there's a lot of people out there, and I want to make sure that we do a good job.
That's fantastic. Early on, too, I mean, that's sort of, I guess the family sort of noticed your ability to entertain and sort of take on the role at hand. You got into commercials, with the first being a used car dealership.
Yeah. Chevrolet OK used cars.
Wow.
And I played a Chevrolet used car dealer. And a little girl comes up to me with a frog, and I say, our deals are cheap, but not that cheap.
He remembers the line too. That's fantastic.
Well, it wasn't,
cool.
It was actually just, we were just kind of pantomiming everything, and then they had the closed caption underneath.
That's fantastic. And of course, people growing up remember that for a good many years, you had a wonderful association with Mattel, with their commercials as well. What was that like? I mean, that's, internationally known.
What was fun is we got to keep the toys.
Oh, really?
So, I had Larry the Lion.
That's right. Yes.
And I got to keep it. And that was lots of fun.
Yes. And you worked with Pamela on that too, right? Of course.
Pamela Ferdin.
Fabulous actress over the years, to Odd Couple and so many other great things.
And the voice of Lucy.
That's right.
For many years.
Exactly right.
And she was also the voice of what's it? This Pig is Great. A veritable smorgasbord. Paul Lind. come on, brain. Anyway, she was Charlotte's Web.
Oh, Charlotte's Web. Yes.
She did the voice for the little girl in that.
And I believe she still does voiceover work today, right?
I believe so.
Big area for her. So Mattel, and then tell us about some of the opportunities people see in doing the commercials that came your way as a result of that work. Of course, I know you were really the creator of the role way back in the early 60s on General Hospital, the legendary soap opera of Scotty Baldwin. You were the original.
Well, I wasn't the creator.
Yeah.
But I was the original Scotty Baldwin.
The original. Yeah. What was that like?
I remember going up to, now it's ABC television in the Hollywood Hills.
Yeah.
And go up there on Monday morning. And my mother was with me, and she would help me read my lines. But we had a read through of the week's storyline.
Yeah.
And wherever I was there, I would, come in. They wouldn't have me there the whole time because it was a whole day, and you could only have children there. Well, I was under 6, so I could only be there 4 hours on set. So I had to, they would do my lines, and then I could go home. But, that whole week, and I was usually in at least 1 or 2 of the episodes. And so, but I remember being the baby and the kid. Everybody, of course, fawned on me and loved on me and thought I was just the cutest thing. And enough to where Dr. Baldwin adopted me, because my mother, I'm trying to remember her name. But anyway, she was my mother, and we don't know exactly who my father was, but my mother was a nurse. You know how those nurses can be.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're lots of fun to date. But she fell in love with Dr. Baldwin, and then he decided to adopt me. So I changed my last name to Baldwin, and it then became Scotty Baldwin.
Scotty Baldwin. That's incredible. How did you remember, the soap operas are incredible. We've had several guests in the soap opera world pass through the Jim Masters Show series, and the amount of dialogue, I mean, the scripts are incredible, and the memorization has to be really on par. How did you work with that at such an early, impressionable age, Johnny?
Well, I was able to read by the time I was 5, or at least start to read and understand before I went into kindergarten. But I had older brothers and sisters who loved to play school. And so I was being taught by them. And it was definitely beneficial so that I could have the education and knowledge that I had when I was ready to work on television. But my mother would work with me every night, and especially during Family Affair, I remember that she would finish all of the housework with the other girls and the family, and then she would come up to my bedroom and read me my lines while I was sleeping.
Wow.
And so I think that's kind of one of the ways in which it kind of went into my brain.
What a great technique, huh? Everybody write that down. That's a terrific technique to just sort of, and I wonder if it ever became part of your dreams too, because you were hearing it.
I don't remember that, but the next morning when I would be reading my lines on the way into work, I was familiar with them.
You were familiar with them. Wow, that's amazing. What a great That's really an ingenious technique.
I use it today. I just put, a tape recording or whatever while I'm sleeping, and sometimes it helps. Not always.
And then, of course, after General Hospital came Slattery's People in 65 for an episode. But then in 66, this terrific movie, The Russians Are Coming. The Russians Are Coming. And, of course, Carl Reiner and Jonathan Winters.
Well, you forgot one unknown.
There's
it was
an
called
unknown.
And Baby Makes Three.
Oh, yes, that's right.
And that was with Joan Blondell.
In 66.
And I played the Bat Boy, and it was going to be a series, but it didn't work out.
It didn't happen. But the Russians and Joan Blondell, I mean, what was it like working with her? I mean,
she absolutely adored me.
Yeah.
And I thought she was pretty and cute, and anybody who loves you, you try to love them back. So
yeah. I'm sure there were a lot of people who wanted to adopt you and take you home, especially, with a face like this. I mean, how not, Johnny? Come on.
Such a punum.
How could you not want to?
Look at that punum.
Look at that. Hey, how'd you not want to take him home? Really, really terrific. Again, I mentioned, and thanks for bringing that one up, because a lot of people don't remember that, because that was a quick hit. But the Russians,
yeah. If you go on my YouTube channel, I've got a short
little
clip of my big scene in that one.
And the Russians Are Coming. The Russians Are Coming. Tell us about how that came to be for you as well. I mean, Brian Keith, of course, in that, and Jonathan Winters, Carl Reiner, an incredible cast. And that's when you really had that first opportunity to work with Brian Keith, right?
Well, I don't remember a whole lot. What I do remember is one night, Cindy Putnam, which was the Carl Reiner's youngest daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And we filmed it during in October, I guess. And so we went out trick-or-treating together as husband and wife. But we also went out to watch the opening of Mary Poppins.
Oh, yeah.
And so I saw that. And
Julie Andrews, Dick Van Dyke. Yeah.
And then I do remember Brian coming to my room. And of course, my mother and I were in a, single motel room. And we would get what's called per diem, which they would give you money for your breakfast and lunch and dinner, because they didn't always, and in those days, have food on the set. Nowadays, everybody has breakfast, lunch, and dinner on the set, but they're still mandated through SAG-AFTRA to give you a per diem, which is the amount of money that you would not have spent or that you would spend on, usually it's breakfast and dinner. Anyway, so my mother wanted to save that money since, there was 9 other mouths to feed back home. So any money that could be saved was saved. And she went ahead and bought an electric skillet and was making grilled cheese sandwiches. And Brian knocks at the door, and there we are with our grilled cheese sandwiches. He says, "What are you doing eating grilled cheese sandwiches?" And my mother, looking at this hunka man, that was a big movie star, coming to her and her son's, motel room. "Oh, hello, Mr. Keith." And anyway, he said, "Well, can Johnny Whitaker come out to play?"
Whitaker, yeah.
and because I couldn't say my R's.
Right.
And when I first got my first job, I went up to the casting director and said, "Hello, my name is Johnny Whitaker," and shook their hand. And anyway, so we played a little bit of baseball or throwing the ball back and forth or whatever. Bryant went out and bought me a little glove, and we just played ball. And then, after about 10, 15 minutes, he says, "You know what? Jonathan Winters and I are going to take you and your mom out to dinner." Now, Jonathan Winters himself is the father of like 9 kids.
Yes.
And when we, got together and went out to dinner, and Brian looked over at Jonathan and said, "Okay, you're paying for it." He goes, "What?" And no, I'm buying. So Brian bought it, but Jonathan was, "What?" But we went out to a nice steak dinner that night.
Ooh.
And I just remember that it was lots of fun. And from that time forth, whenever Brian wasn't working on the set and was back in the motel, we would, play ball. And then on the set, if we were on the set at the same time, we would throw the ball around.
And this was filmed in California, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to be up in Maine or New England.
Yeah, New England, sure.
But because it was supposed to be the Russians coming down to take a look at the U.S. coastline, and they get stranded on a sandbar, and then they need to get pushed off and then come into this little town, and secretly, and that's when emergency, everybody to get from street. But I played the salvation of America and the Russians as I fell off the steeple and was saved by a Russian shipman and love interest to Carl Reiner's oldest daughter.
That is something else, I tell you, huh? Carl Reiner's oldest daughter. It was, when you're surrounded by that amount of legendary talent, were you keen to it? Were you aware of it on that set, or you were just doing what you had to do?
I had no idea.
No idea.
Theodore Bickel playing, I believe, if not the original, one of the original Tevias in Fiddler on the Roof. And, Carl Reiner, who was with us just up until this year or last year.
Yes.
And
right.
Had a legendary career. Jonathan Winters, of course. And then, of course, Brian Keith and others that were, not as well known, but the faces you recognize from other movies all the time.
Now that's
and a great director too. And come on, brain, show it up. Your Russians are coming. It's come on. He's also still working at 90, I believe, but
is that Norman Jewison?
Norman Jewison, yes.
Yes. That's terrific. I mean, surrounded by so many incredible people. That opportunity to work with Brian Keith sort of developed the forward path to him wanting you to be a part of Family Affair, right? But Family Affair initially wasn't going to be structured the way it turned out to be, and we're so glad that it did. But you're working with him, really, he loved it.
Well, Brian wanted, he went to the producers and said, "I've just worked with this fantastic kid." Of course, that's what he said about me, or something like that.
Well, of
that
course.
is really cute and he has all of the whatever we need. And I know that there's no role yet for a 6-year-old boy, but maybe he can be the neighborhood kid who becomes friends with Buffy, and they get into semantics or whatever, and they go, well, we'll bring him in. And so on the day that they had the screen test, they had lots of 6-year-old girls. Pamela Ferdin was there as well, and Anissa Jones was there, and some other girls. And there were a lot of 10-year-old boys, but I was the only 6-year-old boy that was there. And so, they would put me up against the different girls just, to get an idea of it, because I was pretty solidly going to be in the show in some way or another, because one of the producers and the main actor, Brian Keith, had requested it.
Yeah.
My agent says that it was her idea to put Buffy and Jody as twins. I don't know that that is true, but she's no longer with us, so I will keep that memory alive. But when they saw Anissa and I, next to each other, they said, we're going to change it to 6-year-old twins, and, just boy-girl twins. And then later on in Family Affair, as I got taller than Anissa, they decided that they were going to kind of move us away from being the twins, because that's how they always recognized us, were the twins. And so as in the last 2 years, they never used the twins anymore.
Right. That's right. Exactly. Did you, when that happened, that series, which is still beloved and iconic, talked about, still airs to this day, available on DVD, but also on television still for decades now. Why do you think so many people still love that series? They love the characters, they love the setting, they love the theme song to Family Affair. What is it about that series that still resonates, you think, today with people?
Well, before it became woke, I guess, we had a unusual family. Now, they also had Bachelor Father earlier on, but now we have an uncle who becomes the father. We have his valet, and there was no funny business going on between Mr. French and Uncle Bill.
Mm-hmm.
He was very proper, and a teenager, and then the 2 kids. So we were an unusual family, but that's what made it, everybody knew that maybe we were not the mother, father, brother, sister family, but love is what always was the centerpiece. And they were like good stories that always had a positive ending, no matter what happened in the middle. Everything was tied up in a bow, and da 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 da, and everybody goes away feeling happy. And so that's one of the lasting memories and of generations that had it, so that Family Affair is an iconic series even today.
Did you ever have, and I always wondered with shows that were like that, where, like you say, within the 22 plus minutes, whatever, a lot of problems solved, and very wholesome, and just, enjoyable to watch, with some great values that are expressed. And there was adults that were watching, the kids loved it. Did you ever deal at all with the thought of, gee, wouldn't it be great if life really was like this? The struggle of, gee, everything is sort of kind of perfect. Everything ends neatly. Everybody's getting along. Everything looks nice and is pretty, and the flowers are blooming. As a kid, especially, did you ever struggle with the two worlds of what life is really like, as well as how these fabulous shows presented it?
Well, I have to say that my life was pretty darn good. One of the 8 children, never wanting anything, or at least before I started making more than my father, I didn't know that we ever were wanting or needing anything. We had a pool in our backyard growing up, so that was
a big thing. The family was doing well if you had a pool in the back. We had one too, and that was.
But I would say, growing up, I had an idyllic life. My mother and father openly showed their affection toward each other. Every once in a while, mom and dad would get into an argument, and we would get nervous, or we would start to cry, and my father would leave and then come back later on. But my mother and father had learned from their parents that you never go to bed angry, and you always make up before you go to bed. And every night we would have family prayer, where we would gather around the coffee table or the centerpiece in the den, and kneel in prayer and pray. And each of us got a chance to pray. And if any of us were not doing what we were supposed to be doing, or, maybe getting off the track, dad or mom would make sure it was their turn to pray. And, okay. And then every morning we had family prayer. And, so I grew up in a religious, but I would say more than religious, a spiritual situation, where we were not mandated to believe, but we just kind of accepted that God was always there and would always protect us, and that Jesus was the Christ, and that Jesus would be there to protect us as well. And if we were scared, we would just pray to our Heavenly Father in the name of Jesus, and, we would feel comforted. So growing up in that situation was a beautiful thing. I mean, in my opinion, idyllic. I just wish that more families would have morning and evening prayer. I think it would solve a lot of problems in a lot of families.
Creates a nice, long-lasting, and beautiful foundation for their lives as well, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Anissa Jones, who was Buffy, her mother was a avid atheist.
Yeah.
And made sure that Mrs. Deeney, who was our on-set school teacher, because we had to have 3 hours of schooling every day, and Paula Jones, Anissa's mother, told Mrs. Dini that absolutely by no means were we ever to discuss God or religion in the class. And she said, there is a reason why there is a separation of church and state. And I do not want to, and Mrs. Dini respected Paula's wishes. And however, I come from a very spiritual Christian family, and Mrs. Dini was a very strong Catholic. So, sometimes when we would talk about the Pilgrims, you have to talk about God. When you talk about the Pledge of Allegiance, you say under God. When you have to talk about our forefathers and the belief that they had in a higher power or God. Anyway, I just remember one day I believe it was talking about the Pilgrims and talking about why the Pilgrims left England because of religious persecution. And I said, well, the Mormons were persecuted because of their beliefs. And Anissa said, what? What do you mean? And I said, well, the Mormons coming across the plains. I don't remember exactly what I had said, but I had said enough to interest her in knowing what it was. And Mrs. Dini was getting a little bit nervous. And she goes, well, John, we really don't talk openly about specific religions in our class. And I go, oh, that's right. Paula doesn't want us to talk about God, and I will respect that. And then Anissa pipes up and says, I believe in God, but don't tell my mother that I told you
Don't
that.
tell my mother. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I respect anybody's belief or unbelief,
right,
and give them the right to believe that way. But, when it came to Anissa, it was sad that she had, that she did not have the ability to share her feelings.
It was held back, right? Exactly, which obviously had a tremendous impact on her life going forward, didn't it, Johnny?
Oh yeah, unfortunately. And in 1976, I was doing the Johnny Whitaker show, which was a bicentennial family celebration.
Yes.
And got the information that Anissa had died of a drug overdose Saturday or Sunday. And Monday morning, I heard about it from Rona Barrett on Good Morning America.
That had to be, did it feel like you were losing a sister? It
Well,
had to be tough for you.
I knew that my agent, Mary Grady, she lived in Playa del Rey, or I'm in Marina del Rey, and Anissa was at 600 Reese Street in Playa del Rey, California. That was where she grew up. And I'd been there a few times. And anyway, Anissa had some friends that lived around where my agent lived, and had told me that she saw Anissa, but she didn't look good. And Anissa was not very kind to her, but Anissa did not like to be reminded or have anything to do with show business once she left. And so she chose not to continue in show business. And but when I heard that she was gone, of course, that was a shock. And listening to it on the television, I had a premonition the night before when I was singing with my brothers and sisters in a congregational special event where my brothers and sisters and I were there. Somebody, during the time that we have a question and answer period, said, "Did you know that Buffy died today?" And I was thinking, there've always been rumors that I've died a few times, and
Yeah.
all these rumors. And so I just took it as another rumor and didn't accept it until when I heard Rona Barrett say it. I knew it was true. And I immediately called the publicist, Les Kaufman, for Family Affair Productions and Don Feddersen Productions. And he was at Anissa's home. And I was able to have his secretary patch me in to him at Paula and Paul's home there. And he told them that I had called and was on the phone. They, of course, were distraught and said, that if there's anything more, they will let me know. And I said, I'm just so sorry. And I'm here if they at all need anything. And, I'll wait for you to tell me what, memorial service there was. There was no memorial service. They took her ashes out to sea, and that's about it.
It's always sad, and again, the struggles were apparent, but she still thought of in such a loving way,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Was there a lot of love on the set of Family Affair?
Well, Brian Keith only worked 6 months out of the year. We filmed about 9 months out of the year. So I'm sorry, 3 months out of the year. Brian,
kind of like My Three Sons and Fred McMurray, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so we were filming all of the scenes from all of the scripts, and we would do 26 episodes or 25, 24 episodes every year. And so all of the scripts had to be completed, or basically completed, before we started the new season. And so we would be filming March, April, May with Brian, and then June, July, August, September, October, November, we would be doing all the scenes that he wasn't in. So in one day, we could be doing 5, 6 different scripts, and we would not know what script we were in. And to a certain extent, I think it was good, because then we would only know the lines for that scene. And as child actors, we wouldn't know what the next scene was. So, it was a brand new scene, and it appeared fresh and new. I think that was one of the benefits of doing it that way. But when Brian was there, it was always lots of fun, and he would throw us over his shoulder and, ride us piggyback, the two of us, into the set. But you don't touch the toop. Didn't know what a toop was, but our makeup and hair man, Mr. Kobos, had a little round yarmulke type hairpiece so that Brian wouldn't show a bald spot that he had. And so we could play and have a good time, but you just don't touch the hair. Kathy Garver being, Anissa was 8, I was 6, and Kathy was 18. So she was 10 years older than Anissa, or if she was not 19, I'm not exactly sure. And so we were friends, but she wanted to hang more with the adults. And every once in a while, she would play with us and have a fun time with us, but not as much as, the kids would. And so Anissa and I kind of were our own best friends and our own worst enemies. And like brothers and sisters do, you know, you have a good day or a bad day, and sometimes you don't want to talk to that person. But we had to love and kiss and smile on the set. And so, you know, Brian would teach us, along with Sebastian, you know, leave your emotions that you have back in the schoolhouse. On set, you're going to be professionals and do what it says in the script. And, you know, our director was just a beautiful human being. Charlie Barton was the director who did most of it. He is seen in a lot of the Abbott and Costello films that he was the director of. Especially, I think it was Abbott and Costello and Frankenstein is one of the ones that he directed. But was a short man, a little taller than Anissa and myself, until I started towering over him. But we would be able to see him, and he was just a dear, loving man, and loved us and showed us the love that we could then share to the rest of the world.
That is so beautiful. You know, Sebastian Cabot, a lot of the kids, especially that were watching, because Buffy and Jody were really the central characters, and then everything sort of wrapped around that. But
Well,
Sebastian Cabot was
people called it the Buffy Jody show.
The Buffy Jody show, right?
They didn't know that it was family affair. It was the Buffy and Jody show.
And you know what was very interesting about that show, and in watching it again and again, it is unique in the way that they wrote it and the way you guys played it, because there is the comedic elements, but there's a lot of warmth and a lot of messages and a lot of real emotional moments in it that tug at your heart.
It's called a dramedy.
Yes, one of the first, I would think, just in terms of, you know, something that appeals to various generations from the, you know, you got the kids, but you also got the adults that were watching and loving it as well. It absolutely tugged at your heart in many different occasions, which I think was masterful, you know, as far as the writers and all. You have, I mean, your career continues to be wonderful, but there's so many things that you've been involved in. Bonanza, of course, Lancer, but then Bewitched comes calling, and that's that's a hilarious, that's a fantastic episode. Matter of fact, we just saw it. I don't know what channel, Antenna TV or one of them, and it's Sam and the Beanstalk. What was it like when that call came, and here you are now on the set of another beloved television series, working with other fabulous folks, Elizabeth Montgomery, and I believe this is when the Darrens were changing, right, from Dick York to Dick Sargent.
Yes, and this was the episode in which the last episode before her brother was born.
That's right.
And the whole idea was Samantha is pregnant with a boy. And I don't know exactly how they knew it was going to be a boy, because back then we really didn't know. But, or at least the whole idea of the script was that he was hoping for a boy so that he could play with a boy. Adam was the name of the son.
Adam, that's right, Adam Stevens.
And anyway, so she was mad at her dad because he didn't like girls anymore and he only wanted boys. So she wanted to know what it was like to have a boy around. So she wiggled me out of the book into real life. But I think I was 10 at the time, 9.5, 10 years old. And 9.5, 10-year-old boys had this big crush on Barbara Eden and Elizabeth Montgomery.
Yes, right.
And,
Absolutely.
you know, who was the better witch magician, Samantha or Jeannie? And I always was on the Samantha team. But then I got a chance to meet her.
Yes.
And I just remember usually the calls are like 8:30 in the morning, and my call wasn't until like 11. But and I don't think it was during the summer or something. We didn't have schooling that you had to be there for those 3 hours, but I don't remember exactly. But I remember being off stage and looking at the Stevens living room, and they were doing a scene, and they were popping in and popping out, and of course that doesn't happen in real life. But they would say, "Okay, and cut, freeze."
Yeah.
And so they would freeze, and then they would say, "And action." And so they wouldn't turn off the camera. The camera would continue rolling, and then they would bring in whatever it was that was going to pop in or pop out, or whomever it was, and everybody was to freeze. And that's how they do the magic. And it was just super fun.
It's incredible. That whole area, was it the Warner Ranch, which was Columbia, where that house, the facade for Bewitched, and also for Dr. Bellows and Amanda Bellows' house, that whole street's being torn down, right? I believe.
From what I understand, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite amazing. A lot of nostalgia there. Too bad it could have been preserved for historical
Somehow.
purposes or something along those lines. The Virginian, of course, you're in, and also the Littlest Angel. Tell us about that and how that came along.
Well, they wanted me to play the Littlest Angel. I believe I may have my dates mixed up, but I'm writing my memoirs, so
Oh, that's cool.
I need to get my dates and everything correct.
And yeah.
But I believe I had just done Every Little Boy Can Be President, which was for Family Affair, where I sang a song that didn't make a whole lot of money, but it was it was for the 1969 presidential election. And actually I was supposed to sing at the Democratic National Convention that song, but that's also when Chicago had some riots and problems. And so a young man of my stature, and they were afraid of, anyway. So I did sing at different events, and my parents were very staunch Republicans, but they paid me to be there, and so Every Little Boy Can Be President. Anyway, the producers wanted me to play the role of the Littlest Angel, and I would have to sing. And Fred Gwynne from the Munsters and lots of other great films and television played Patience, my angel, my guardian angel. And Connie Stevens played the Flying Mistress. E.G. Marshall played God. Tony Randall played Democritus. And trying to think, but Cab Calloway was in it, and he was the choir director, the Heavenly Choir. But again, having no knowledge that except I kind of knew who Connie Stevens was, but except for Connie Stevens and of course the Munsters, I knew who Fred Gwynne was. But except for those two, I had no idea that I was in with some giants of television. But we were able to do a 30-minute special effects movie of the week, basically, which they called the 18-Day Miracle, in 72 hours.
That's incredible. Holy
and we did it at NBC Studios Brooklyn, and they had only marked off 3 days. We were there a month in advance, and I stayed at Hotel Pennsylvania. What is it? 996 10,000 at the Pennsylvania Hotel. Anyway, Pennsylvania 5,000. That's it. The song. Anyway, and we rehearsed for 27 days, and then the last 3 days we did the filming, and we finished at like 5 a.m. the following day, which was actually past, but they had to have everything out of the studio by 10 that morning. And so we had been working from 8 a.m. the first day, and we worked until about midnight, and then came back at 8 a.m. and worked till 2 a.m., came back at 10 a.m. and worked until we were finished at about 5 a.m.
What a schedule, huh? Ooh, what a trooper.
Yeah. New York did not have child labor laws. California had child labor laws. And we wondered why they did not have a California teacher come out to New York. But the whole reason was because the laws in New York were not as strict as they were in California. New York laws have changed since then, but at the time, there were no child labor laws.
No labor laws, right? Exactly. It's incredible the amount of work. In 70, you got an opportunity to be on Green Acres, Eva Gabor and family. Twice, that's right. 2 episodes. And from what my research tells me, Eva Gabor just fell in love with you. She wanted to adopt you, huh?
Yes, and she said, Mrs. Whitaker, you have 8 children.
Yeah.
I have no children. Please, let me take Johnny, and I will raise him like my own, and he will be famous and rich and take care of the whole family. And, I thought, what would it be like to have Merv Griffin as my godfather?
You might be the new host of Wheel of Fortune instead of Ryan Seacrest.
Something.
Jeopardy, yeah.
Any of that. And, no, I thought she was beautiful, wonderful. But my mom said, no, we love all of our children. Nobody more, nobody less. And so, but I pay lots of money. I have lots of money. And my mother says, money isn't the question. We just, So I went with her a couple of times, would you loan him to me, please?
Yeah.
And so she said, that's fine. And so she had a limousine come and pick me up and then take me to her place. And we went out to lunch and had a fun time.
That's fantastic. You were also in To Rome with Love with Jodie Foster, huh?
Well, no, that was
Napoleon and Samantha.
Napoleon and Samantha was with Jodie Foster. Yes. To
Yes.
Rome with Love was a break off of Family Affair.
That's right. Yes,
Then,
that's right.
But when Family Affair ended in 71,
Then they
my
sort of,
agent immediately got me started, and I did 4 Walt Disney films that year. And they wanted to put me under contract. And just before they did, I got the role of Tom Sawyer in the musical Adventures of Tom Sawyer, written by the Sherman Brothers.
And what was that like to get a role like that, Johnny?
I didn't want it.
You didn't want it, huh?
No, I was supposed to go to Boy Scout camp that year, and I'd already paid with my own money that my parents did not give me from any trust account. I had to earn it selling greeting cards. And so I made the $200, $300 myself and paid for it myself. And my agent said, go to this audition. I said, well, I'm really not planning to work this summer because I've worked. Family Affair was, 5 years. And then last year, I did the Walt Disney movies. This year I want to take a break and I'm going to Boy Scout camp. And she goes, well, just go meet the producers. So I do. And the one casting director, Ross Brown, really good man, looks at me after because I did the screen test with Jodie Foster and with Jeff East, and I think with another Huckleberry Finn and maybe another Becky Thatcher. But they kind of already looked at the three of us and said, this is going to be what we want. And so the casting director brought my mother and father and myself into his office and said, well, Johnny, we really didn't want you because we thought you were just too cute as Jodie. But you know what? You have uglied up. You are Tom Sawyer. I thought,
Yeah.
am I going to take that or what?
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, that's wonderful. And my mother and father, and I said, well, thank you very much for the offer, but I'm not going to take it. And my mother and father look at each other and what do you mean? And they said, we've got to have a little family powwow. And mom and dad and I went to, I said, I told you that I was going to Boy Scout camp and I'm not going to do another film, but this is some good money and good exposure and it's going to star you. And I said, I don't want it. I don't have to. And my mother and father never forced me, always gave me the opportunity. But now it's like backfire, made me go out and knock on doors to, get my my own money. So mom and dad said, well, how about you go, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to Boy Scout camp.
Right.
And then you fly out and be to the set for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And so they went Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday without me. And then, or they guess maybe they started Tuesday. I'm not exactly sure of the dates there, but I went to Boy Scout camp.
How long did you do that for? Was it just the one summer?
Yeah, it was just one summer, but I also said that I would not do it unless my father and my brother and sisters could come with me. My brother had just gotten a job at the local McDonald's, and so he didn't come, but everybody else, the other 6, all were there in Missouri, and we spent the whole summer together. And other families were there from the other cast and crew. And so it was a big family affair on the set.
Which is very, very cool. Boy, I can only imagine the people that came into that McDonald's when they found out that his brother was the kid on TV on all these shows.
He kept it very quiet.
Smart. You know why? Because everybody would want free French fries and hamburgers from him. That's something. That's quite amazing. Like I said, the incredible array of things you've had an opportunity at an early age to be a part of, even, I believe, giving actress Jodie Foster her very first kiss on screen in Tom Sawyer. Tell us.
And then she turns gay.
From the kiss.
Not my fault.
No, your fault.
I always say that once you get the best, you got to go to the other side.
How do you sort of top that? Yeah, what was it like working with Jodie? You know, obviously a consummate actress as well.
We had worked the summer before.
Yeah.
And she was preparing to go into le Lycée Français, which is a French school.
Yes.
And she had to be able to be fluent in French comprehension and speaking. And then she would pick up or learn grammar or, writing. But so that whole summer, we learned French with Mrs. Sigmund was our California teacher that was there. And whenever we had a chance, she would give us a list of, vocabulary words to work on. And Jodie and I would do that. And then she had a tape recorder where she would listen and, listen to the words that were coming off on the tape recorder. And so all I remember was one of the things that we did, which was, c'est une voiture. Répétez. That is a car. Repeat. So we would all joke and laugh at each other. C'est une voiture. Répétez. But
it's incredible. You know several languages as well, including sign language, right?
Yes. Yeah. I speak 5 languages: English, Portuguese, Spanish, French, and American Sign Language.
Show them the sign that you show the guy when he cuts you off on the highway. It's a new thing. There you go. Right?
And it's, I love you.
See?
I love you. So, when they give me the finger, I just go, I love you.
That's it.
They don't know exactly if, some of them do, but most of them don't. They just get even madder. But
right.
telling you I love you.
Folks, he was on 3 episodes of Gunsmoke. He was on an episode of Marcus Welby, MD. He was in The Biscuit Eater, of course, Napoleon and Samantha, Something's Evil, Snowball Express.
Now, Something Evil was Steven Spielberg's second film.
First was Duel, right? Duel, yes. Dennis Weaver. That's one of my favorites. Yeah. That's so for folks watching who think just family affair, not quite. You very busy, and still even today you've been in Christmas specials and different things over the years, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I was very prolific as a child.
Yeah.
And I am not so prolific as an adult, but everybody loves a puppy. And I've stolen this from Chris Knight.
Oh, yeah. Peter Brady.
Chris Knight says, they loved us as puppies, but once you grow to be a real dog, then they kind of throw you to the lions.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that's kind of the truth. But
great segue. Yeah.
My agent and myself, we look for different things. However, we were going to start filming a short film that I wrote and am producing and directing. I don't know if you can take a screenshot of mine, or well, you can go to where are you? I just lost you. Oh, there we go. To skyblue.movie. And I've written this film, and we were supposed to go into, we were in pre-production, we still are, but we're going to go into production the beginning of October, but due to the writers and actors strike, we have to postpone it until early next year. But I play an old white supremacist who finds out that he is the only surviving member of his granddaughter's family, and I have disowned my son because he married a black Jamaican girl, and they have a daughter whose name is Sky Blue, and she has nowhere to go but to me. And so now it's, how does he deal with this? And it's an interesting, very, it's somewhat of a dramedy as well. There's some comedy in it. And she learns how to deal with rejection at first, and then learns how to try to deal with her grandfather's not so savory belief system.
Fascinating, really. Well, look for that, skyblue.movie. And of course, JohnnyWhitaker.com to keep abreast of a lot of the cool things that you're doing. One of the things that, in addition to all these other shows and specials that we've talked about, Sigmund, the Sea Monsters, 73, 74, that still is a classic. And working with Sid and Marty Krofft and all of their heyday.
And Mary Wicks and Margaret Hamilton,
yes.
Billy Barty.
Absolutely. Something a little bit different too. What was that like?
Well, the fun thing with that is that I actually was a junior producer.
Well, that's cool.
I actually own 5% of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters.
That still has a cult following today, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Marty tried to convince my parents that my 5% burned up in the fire the second year. But that's not necessarily true. Anyway.
Well, you were able to keep some, well, wasn't it, didn't the government put aside money for you from Family Affair and from Sigmund after?
Yeah, although I was in a whole lot of other things.
Yes.
Hollywood, up until 2000, only protected the finances of young people who were in long-term series or were a contract player for, well, if you were a child contracted to a studio, then you got a portion of your income saved and put away. For me, the only money that I ever saw at all, except for $5 every 2 weeks when we went to the unemployment line and they gave you cash at the time, my mother would give me $5. But other than that, Sigmund, which was a contract series, and Family Affairs, the only one that I saw any money out of.
And the residuals didn't come for the shows until after like 1971, right? And Family Affair ended around 71.
Yeah, Family Affair is under the 1970 or 60 to 71 contract, which was that that contract said that you would get residuals in perpetuity. As long as the producer made money, the actors would make money. But that was not the case for Family Affair, which ended in 1971. But, you know, I've got to talk to SAG-AFTRA because I am getting residuals for Gunsmoke and Bewitched and all these other things that I should be getting also from Family Affair. But that's for another time. And that's one of the reasons that, you know, we have to stay in solidarity with our brothers and sisters who are on the picket lines right now, because the producers are trying to get, if, you know, they capture your photo, they can use it anywhere, wherever, however they wish. And that is, you know, homie, don't do that. If you're going to use my likeness, you're going to pay me for my likeness. Mm-hmm. I mean, the book Tom Sawyer had Jeff East and my photo on it. And it made a whole lot of money as a re-release with our photos on it. And we didn't get a cent.
Wow.
And they didn't even ask us for permission.
Shush.
And I didn't know about it until I was on a Mormon mission in Portugal and saw it and said, you know, what the heck is this?
What's this
and
about?
It was a Portuguese version of the movie, of the book Tom Sawyer, but it had Jeff East and my face on it.
Not good. Wow.
But, you know, that's just how, unfortunately, unscrupulous producers will, you know, sell your likeness and not pay you for those, you know. And it's my face. I have the right to my face and my likeness. Nobody else does. My children or my grandchildren, well, my son, my grandchildren, and my family have the rights to me when I pass from this life. But, you know, I will never give my face over to just anybody.
Absolutely not. You had the opportunity.
It's mine, damn it.
It's his. It is his. He authorizes who pinches his cheeks, and that's been the case since he was a kid. Disney, of course, working with the folks at Disney with various things like the Magical World of Disney in '73 with 2 episodes, and then also Murder in Dracula's Castle. What was that like?
Well, that's where I first met Scott Colden. And when it came time to do the casting, Sid and Marty asked me to be in. Again, I'm one of the producers on that casting choice. And I saw lots of friends that I had worked with in the past, that some that were about my age, some that were younger. And when Scott Colden came in, I said, hey, Scott, you know, how are you? Nowadays, we do the fist bump and all that. Back in the early 70s, I don't remember what it was. Maybe a high five, I don't know. But it was, you know, hey, how you doing, Scott? And or Scotty. And I just said, you know, we've worked together. We had a really positive, and then they put us on camera and they said, yep, that's the way it's going to be. Then I got to choose that I could choose my name. I forget what name they were going to give me. I think it was going to be Todd Stewart. And I said, you know what? I went 5 years being Jody. can I just use my real name? Johnny? John Stewart? Yeah. So then it was Johnny and Scott, our friends, the finest of friends that ever could be on the land or on the sea.
That's so cool. I'm sure you do. Do you ever stop, take a moment, have a cup of coffee, and review the legacy, the body of work, the amount of materials that spans decades that have.
Alexa, play Johnny Whitaker Friends.
There you go.
Friends by Johnny Whitaker on Amazon Music.
Alexa, raise the volume.
Same.
Alexa, stop.
That's just like being on a TV show, easy breezy. You just tell it to stop. You tell it to go. It does it.
Yeah.
So there are elements in real life that sort of mimic television a little bit. I was saying, the decades of material and body of work, Adam 12. I mean, the list goes on and on. Do you ever pause and look through all the craziness of life and say, wow, I really did make an impact, and I've been involved with so many shows that are of great standing and have great appeal and people still have a fondness for. Does it ever hit you when you look at it? I'm sure in the memoir, as you're writing the memoir, it certainly will.
Well, I am, doing the memoirs. A lot of individuals like myself, we go to these expos and fan expos and autograph shows. And that's really kind of a fun time that we can go to get paid for our autograph. All of my proceeds go to my nonprofit called Paso por Paso, which I do want to talk about as soon as we can.
Yes.
But and the work that I'm doing with mental health and addiction.
Extraordinary.
That, but as working for 20 years, let's see. Yes, this is my 20th year as a drug and alcohol counselor. Anissa Jones' death was something that I would think that I would never have any problems with. But when she died, I kind of said that, I grew up LDS, Mormon, and Mormons don't have sex before marriage. You don't drink coffee. You don't drink tea. And you certainly don't do drugs or alcohol. But, little would I know that after a failed marriage and a girlfriend who committed suicide, would I go to the dark side, Luke Skywalker? And did. And for about 10 years, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, until my family had an intervention, at which time I made the decision that I was going to have a relationship with my brothers and sisters, and especially my 3 nephews that were at the time 2, 3, and 4 years old. And without them, they were my life, they were my heart, and I didn't care about the adults, but I wanted them to be in my life. And if I wanted to have that, I had to change, which I did. And I went into recovery, went into treatment. Then I got a friend of mine, while I was kind of deciding what to do with the rest of my life, had suggested in the 12-step program, you have sponsees. You are a sponsor, which is that you help others achieve the level of recovery that you have, or at least help teach them. You don't give them money like a sponsor does, but you are more like a godfather, a spiritual sponsor. And in Spanish, padrino, which means godfather, is how we translate the sponsorship into the 12-step program. Anyway, I'd had a few sponsees, and a friend of mine said, well, why don't you come and take a class with me about drugs and treatment? I said, no, I'm too busy. He says, BS, you're not too busy. He said, I know you. Why don't you just come and check it out? If you take the first couple classes and you don't like it, leave, and you don't have to pay anything. So I sat down in a class with my friend and this wonderful professor who was a psychologist and also a nurse and a person in long-term recovery, and just made everything really cool to understand. I fell in love with it, signed up for 3 more classes, and then the next semester signed up for 8 classes. Then the next semester took my anyway. I got my certification, and for the last 20 years, or 5, so the last anyway, the last few years, about last 20 years, I have been a certified addiction treatment counselor. I'm level 2 today. I'm also a certified alcohol and other drug certified counselor.
Incredible.
For the last 13 years, I have been a part of a celebration of life for those who have died of overdose deaths. August 31st is International Overdose Awareness Day.
Yes.
And I don't know, I've got it here. Can I pull it up or can I give it to you?
Is there a website that people can go to?
Yeah. Let me just see if I can. But can I?
Oh, you hit your mute button there on your volume.
Oh,
there you go. There you go.
Okay. But I can't.
Does JohnnyWhitaker.com lead them to anything?
Let's see here. Well, yes, JohnnyWhitaker.com will have it.
Perfect.
And also, I'm going to Kanab, Utah, for the a big event. But going back to it's 4 years ago, I started the. It's called Lives Lost and Lives Recovered. And I have Anissa Jones. I have Dana Plato. Anissa, of course, played Buffy. Dana Plato I was her final agent. Lonnie O'Grady, who was my agent's daughter, but also the oldest daughter for 8 is Enough. Michael Douglas's half-brother, Eric Douglas. And those 4 people all died of an overdose, along with Dana's son, who 11 years to the day died of a gunshot wound after he was enraged with alcohol and other drugs. And then Celeste Holm, who died of an overdose while in the hospital. Her widower is one of my best friends.
Is that Frank?
Frank
I
Basile.
know Frank. Yeah, I know.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes,
Wow, what
Frank
a small world.
Frank
Wow.
and I are very good friends. And
Huh.
while his wife was in the hospital, he went to the doctor told him to give her this medication. And whenever you give a patient medication, you give it to them and then you write it down on the paper next to it, saying that this individual had taken, but he had left to get dinner. A nurse came in and looked at, and she just knew what medication she was supposed to have, gave her that medication over again without looking at it. And so we celebrate Celeste as that not everybody dies of an overdose that they wanted to die or that they were looking to do so. Most of the time, overdose happens because you are you want to change the way that you feel and you want to feel better.
Aaron Carter, the singer, just recently. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it was fentanyl. And I had one of my very, very dear friends, his son in 2019 died of an overdose while he was in treatment. He snuck out and had a dealer just out for like 3 minutes. He had the money or Venmo'd him the money or whatever it was, and met him in the back lot, got the money and got the pills, or I guess it was heroin, and died the next day. And then my god nephew, a very dear friend of mine who passed away. Anyway, her son died of a fentanyl overdose and had 6 children that he left behind.
And that's being laced with other things,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Fentanyl is being
people are
laced
having trouble.
with cocaine, methamphetamine, with Molly, with any other drug you don't know. And it's coming in through Mexico from China. And more than 100 years ago, the UK won over Hong Kong with the opiate wars. And now China has brought fentanyl through Mexico to the United States as their, what I believe anyway, to be their neener, we're going to get you because you got us. And try not to be too political, but 300 plus individuals die per day of an overdose related death. And overdose is preventable and can be prevented. And that's why I'm going to have a Zoom meeting, a Zoom memorial, memorializing lives lost and lives recovered. And so if anybody has a friend or a family member that they wish to be memorialized who died of a drug or alcohol overdose, you can send that to Johnny at johnnywhitaker.com or overdoseawareness0831 at gmail.com. And you're welcome to join us and share for a couple minutes about your loved one with their photo. And then when we are done, we have a, like they do at the Oscars or the Emmys, a memorial section with beautiful music and with their faces. And unfortunately, every year I add more names. And like I've just, in the last 12 years, I've had to add 4 more names. And, but it is on September 9th, and it is at 4 p.m. California time, 7 p.m. New York or Eastern Standard Time. And if you want more information, go to johnnywhitaker.com or send me an email, johnny@johnnywhitaker.com, and we'll make sure to get you involved with that.
This is really beautiful work that you're doing that some of the fans of the television and the film work might not realize you have been immersed in for quite some time. It's beautiful work. And this is why I said at the beginning, at the outset, that inspiration, empowerment, motivation, you're doing work that really, you've done work over the career that has entertained us and made us feel good and laugh and joyful. And now it's next level, real reality. And I think it's beautiful stuff you're doing, Johnny.
Well, thank you. And, I am very happy to be a person with more than 25 years. I will celebrate 26 years near the end of September, but we don't give any pre-ups. I've got 25 solid years clean and sober in long-term recovery, and happy to celebrate others because, last year, one of my friends was a dancer with Michael Jackson, and he joined us and shared his feelings about Michael Jackson's death.
Yes.
And was interesting. We've talked about it in the past, but, he had a bit of an opportunity to really share about how he believes Michael Jackson, again, did not want to kill himself. He just didn't, he wanted to sleep. And propofol is a great sleeping mechanism. But if you are not with a good doctor, with a good anesthesiologist, even better than a doctor, who will, watch your blood pressure, watch everything. Michael didn't want to die. He just didn't want to feel or wanted to be able to sleep because he hadn't been able to. And he and some other people had been using some drugs and nothing that was really good. And, you have to be careful with the company that you keep. And show business, you have mom, the motive, opportunity, and means to be involved with drugs to the point where it's not just street drugs and it's just about anything that you want.
Yeah.
But I love talking about it, sharing about it, teaching about it. And I do seminars all the time on drugs for both professionals and people who want to know more about it. And, go to johnnywhitaker.com or my website for my nonprofit, which is passoporpasso.org. And actually, I'm redoing the website, so it's needs to be updated. But if
and
you
how
are
do you spell
interested,
it? How do you spell that for everybody?
Passo is Paso.
It's Paso.
Passo por Passo. I was just putting it in your
The little private convo.
there you go.
There it is.
passoporpasso.org. And but if you'd like a photo or an autograph photo, you can also go to johnnywhitaker.com and then click on my little page that has a lot of photos in it. And all of the donations or all of the proceeds go to Paso por Passo so that I can continue the work that I do, continue the memorial and different aspects of recovery.
There it is on the screen.
There you go. passoporpasso.org.
It was your family that said they sort of intervened for you, right?
Yep.
Didn't you have an episode where you were driving along in the car and you felt the presence of Brian Keith sort of guiding you after an
Yeah, it
accident?
was. I had shared it with somebody, and
I think
I've
it's
got to find
incredible.
that episode of
It's incredible.
what's his name? Anyway,
Yeah.
Brian. I had found out that he was very ill,
Yeah.
and when I was unable to visit or talk to Mary Wicks, who played as Zelda in Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, and had come to my wedding and Scott's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, when I found out that she'd passed away,
Yeah.
I was angry that Hollywood did not celebrate her as I believe they should have.
She was on so many shows, worked with
Oh,
Lucy,
yeah,
Lucy
right after the talkies.
Yeah.
I mean, White Christmas, and I was with her. She was with me anyway in 3 of the 4 Walt Disney films that I did, and then Sigmund, and but I was very upset, and a fan had heard that I was upset and had told me that he knew that Brian Keith was basically on his deathbed. And so I called a friend of mine to get his phone number, who was an agent of his and or worked with the company that was his agency. They were able to give me his phone number, and I called Brian, and I was expecting a nurse or a secretary or somebody to answer. And I called the number, and he goes, "Hello?" And I said, "Brian, is that you? Who the hell's this?" And I said, "Brian, sorry, this is Johnny Whitaker." "Johnny Whitaker? How the hell did you get my phone number?" And I thought, oh my goodness, well, I don't want to get my friend in trouble.
Right.
But I said, "Look, Brian," and he said, "Well, everybody's wanting to take pictures of me, and I look like crap, and I feel like crap," but he used the other word.
Yeah.
And he said, they've taken pictures of me, and it's just not right. It's not fair. And anyway.
And he had lost his daughter.
He had just lost his daughter, and he told me that, my baby daughter had just died of an overdose, Daisy, of cocaine, which is not easy to overdose on. But she had died, I think, in April, and this was now the summer. And I believe he died in August or early September. Anyway, he shot himself. Well, he told me that the doctors give him 5 days to live. And he says, "But I'm going to meet my maker. I'm not going to be surprised." So basically, Kathy Garver and I both believe that he wanted to meet the Grim Reaper instead of having the Grim Reaper come and get him. Brian also had a full Catholic funeral, which I believe he had talked to his priest before he passed and before he shot himself, saying that he was going to basically euthanize himself when the pain got too much, when he knew that there was nothing else that could be done.
Yeah.
So, but 3 days later, I'm in my car driving home from work, and I'm getting calls on my phone from, everybody wanting to do an interview and find out how I am with Brian's passing. I had just finished a conversation, which I did not have Bluetooth, and I'm not suggesting that anybody text and drive or talk and drive without Bluetooth. But, I answered the phone. I put the phone down. I was going 65 miles an hour on the 5 freeway. All of a sudden, all the cars in front of me, as I looked up, were stopped or stopping. I thought, oh my goodness. So I put my foot on the brake, and I'm now swerving over to the fast lane. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go all the way over into the no man's land.
Yeah.
And hopefully stay there so that I don't hit anybody. And, hopefully people see that I'm not watching what I should do. And then I think, okay, I'm going to pump my brakes one more time. And as I do that, my brakes lock. And now I start swerving from the far left to the far right. And I'm, swerving, and a semi is coming by. And as the semi comes by, I see that I'm going to go right underneath the semi because I had a small Toyota Celica. And while I am, at that point, just before going into the car, I hear Brian's voice, cover, duck, roll. So I let go of the steering wheel because there was nothing I could do. I covered my head, I ducked to the side, and I rolled. Just as I impacted, glass was going all over the place. My car was spinning back to the other side of the freeway. And I was just staying down and kind of hunkering down, waiting for the impact of other cars to possibly hit me. But by that time, everybody had seen what was happening, and they were, swerving and driving around. But I got saved by Brian's voice, and still here to talk about it.
What a blessing, huh? Absolutely. And those things do happen, and they are real.
I believe, no doubt.
Yes.
Brian's spirit had not yet
Yeah.
gone to the other side, because they say, many times the spirit kind of lingers here for a while until the light comes. And I believe he was right there and talking to me and, said, you're not going to go see me. I'm not ready for you to see me. So cover, duck, and roll, kid.
See the way he's looking at you there in that photo? Yeah. There is that sort of, it's almost as if was put on the planet to make sure that your time wasn't then, not ready.
Right then and there. Absolutely.
Not quite yet. This was cool too, huh? Singing it. Was this at the Hollywood Bowl?
Hollywood Bowl, and I was the MC for the Krofft Super Show.
That's right.
That had the Brady kids that
that's
were
right.
singing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also did some other slapstick with Billy Barty, who came in as Sigmund, and some others, but he also came in as himself. And of course, the Les Poupées de Paris, which are the sexy dancing, large dancing marionettes.
Yes, remember?
That Sid and Marty Krofft were very famous. Sid especially.
Yeah.
For Les Poupées de Paris.
That's incredible. Then there was also Donny Osmond, right? Who is the singer of choice?
Yeah. Hey, you've got to send me that article.
Isn't that cool? That. Yes, absolutely.
Well, you see, Donny,
yeah.
Danny is another one, but this is Donny.
Bonaducci, yeah.
But Donny is my nemesis. And that's because not this one, but there was another one in which they said, who is a better kisser, Donny Osmond or Johnny Whitaker? And I never got a chance to test out anybody. But the next month in Tiger Beat, it came out that Donny won and was the better kisser. And I said, no way. And I sent a letter to Tiger Beat saying, that's not fair. I didn't, and they just sent me back a letter. Oh, Johnny, have your people call us. I guess Donny had people. I didn't have any people but me. And
cool, huh?
Yeah.
And then
we are friends today.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
and that's the key, right?
When they had the, I guess it was 1979 when they had the studio in Provo. I was going to school there, and Donnie had me come and walk the grounds where and he was saying, oh, here's going to be the studio, and here's going to be dressing rooms, and it was just they had cleared everything. Now today, the studio is now a rehab facility for drug and alcohol rehab.
How ironic and uncanny is that, huh?
Yeah, I was just in Utah for a friend of mine, her family's wedding, and she invited me to come and be a part of that. And on our way through Utah, we stopped at the Donnie and Marie Studios because my friend is a big Donnie fan, but says that I'm a better kisser than Donnie. But anyway, and I had heard it's called The Lodge, Lodge. And I didn't get a chance to take a tour, but I will later on. But was a beautiful facility, and I'm sure they've done a good job. And they still do some audio recordings there, musical recordings. But I think they've turned the studio into tennis courts.
Wow, that's everything becomes something else, right? Keeps it going. Also, you had an opportunity to, like I said, you've still been working in a lot of different shows and productions and everything. A talking cat.
Yes.
It's more recent,
That's
of
me.
course.
I was a
Eric
rich
Roberts
philanthropist, and Christine DeBelle, who is my love interest. But it is a fun movie, but even more fun if you're drunk, from what I understand. At UCLA and then in other Greek houses around the country, they would put the film on. It was a 85-minute film, but only had 45 minutes of dialogue and script. And so they had to put in another 30 plus minutes of long car drives and long views of the ocean. And so young people would see how much they could drink during that period of time. And so it became a drinking game. And I was just before COVID, I was doing some Uber driving, and some people had recognized me as Johnny Whitaker or Jody or Tom Sawyer if they were in my demographic. But this other guy, somehow we got on. I said, yeah, I did a few movies. And he goes, I know you. You're in that talking cat movie, right? And I said, wait a minute. How do you know about that? He goes, oh, we watch it every other weekend to get blasted. And I said, what? And yeah, they use it as a drinking game. So I signed an autograph to him, and from the talking cat guy.
That's so cool, huh? Like I said, you've touched lives in so many different ways. One of which, too, more recent, back in 2019, with our mutual dear friend, the incredible Elaine Ballas, the Misadventures of Camp Elaine. And you also did some work with Elaine and another great friend, and who was a guest on our show, Rodney Allen Rippey.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I played two roles. I played the homeless man, and then the homeless man's brother, who is a Hollywood agent. And Rodney and I, Oreo, her dog, and
yes,
she find me sleeping on a bench right there in Burbank. Or under the bench or whatever.
Yeah.
And wakes me up, and I tell her to go see my brother because she just lost a job as an actress.
Yeah.
And so she comes, and there I am as the twin brother. And we have interaction, but Rodney was the one who brought her to see me, and so it was lots of fun. It was a short, less than a half hour.
Yeah.
But Rodney is still a friend of mine today, of course, and I've known him since right after Too Big to Eat, the
Jack in the Box
commercials.
Landlord on The Odd Couple.
Yes. And then he was also on Blazing Saddles.
That's right. Mel Brooks.
He played the young, what's the black guy's name who starred in it? Anyway, he played him as a child.
Right.
And
stayed friends all these years, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. And he's involved with radio stations too, and beautiful music format, I know.
Yeah, I think I'm going to see him this Saturday. We've got a lunch planned.
Oh, cool. Tell him I said hi. He's going to be, he's got new things he's working on. He wants to come back on the show, which is great. And Elaine and you have a great friendship as well, huh? It's a nice shot of you and Elaine.
Yes, we are still friends, but we're closer friends at that time. But of course, very sweet young lady. Everybody's young.
I was going to say, she'll love hearing that part.
But yes, and Elaine helped me. I work in recovery, and I used to have some sober living homes, and she helped me get some food for the gentleman in my sober living home so that we could take leftovers and food to them so that they have their EBT cards or their, food cards from the state, but also sometimes that doesn't always cover some things, and get them to have some more basic, decent food.
Which is so important. Again, it's absolutely beautiful work you're doing, Johnny. It continues to be. One other quick one here that people might not remember, but was another good one. And I think it was an afternoon special, possibly with Dick Van Patten. This one's for Dad.
Oh, wow. I got to have a copy of that one too.
Yes, that's a good one. Yeah, Dick Van Patten is tell us about
Van Patten played my father.
Right.
And actually Vince Van Patten was supposed to do it, but he was working on something else and couldn't. And so I was second choice, but that's okay. Dick and I had a good time working together, and Dick's wife later on played a mother when I was producing a play in LA, and her very good friend who's also Elaine's friend, Blazing Saddles. What's his name? The director.
For Blazing Saddles?
Yes. And come on.
Right. Do you want to phone a friend, as they say in the Millionaire Show?
Anyway.
Of course, we know Mel Brooks in it, of course.
Mel Brooks,
yeah.
yes.
Oh, yeah, Mel Brooks, yeah.
Mel Brooks and his wife.
Yes.
Another wonderful actress came to my play, along with Carl Reiner and his wife. And because we had his Mr. Van Patten's wife in the show. And so, you know, you usually don't get big Hollywood names to come see a small 99-seat theater, but having her brought Mel and their friends to come watch her. And she did a really good job. Not the greatest actress, but I've heard that she got better. And that's all you have to do is get, you know, work it out. And but it was very good. And we remained, you know, friends. And of course, Vincent and I always fought for different roles, and he got some and I got some. And when I did Tom Sawyer, I was supposed to do a movie with Scott Colden playing my brother again. I forget what the name of that was, but he came and took my role as I went to do Tom Sawyer.
You know, when you look at all of this incredible work, this body of work, and all the people you've worked with, and all the years, like I say, decades of entertainment, Johnny, you know,
60.
It's incredible when you say
before
60.
You were even thought of.
Right. It's so incredible when you say 60 years and still, you know, at it, still plugged in. Like I said, you could be tucked away, hidden in the mountain somewhere saying, I've done my part. But now with this whole other area as a counselor and working with people and helping them, there's a lineage there. There's a blend. The work that you've done from the entertainment side of things makes people feel good, takes people away from the craziness of life. And now here you are on the flip side of that, more acting, writing, directing, doing the things you do, but immersed in this other world that helps people, that inspires people, that gets people to feel good about themselves, helps them heal. There's a thread there in some way, shape, or form. You are a plugged in people person, and you like to not only entertain them, but you like to empower them and motivate them. And I think that's a beautiful thing. When you look at the legacy and the body of everything, it's quite special, Johnny Whitaker.
Well, thank you.
You know, I know you're humble about it, but it really is. Let the rest of us, you know, speak for you in that way. It really is something quite special. And so cool stuff. And you've got some other, let me see if we can plug these in here. We've got some other quick sites and things that we can show. Sky Blue Movie, is that available now for viewing?
Well, you can see the website, and it's just me with suspenders on, and tells you a little bit about what the movie's going to be about.
As you're working on it, yeah.
Right. And then you can come back, and we will be having a GoFundMe or
right,
Indiegogo, something like that,
right,
to help pay for it. I've got some friends and others who are going to be investing in the film. It's a short film. It's only 30 minutes long.
There's the website. We're hoping there
to get it into different places. Plus, I have a desire to take it around to high schools and middle schools and kind of have a nice conversation about white supremacy and racism, and how we might be able to help others who might have a problem or who don't want to be looked at as that, because I do believe very strongly that we should be judged by the content of our character, not the color of our skin.
Yes.
My son, or my godson, is American African. His mother was born in Africa, in Angola. We were very dear friends and together for a short time. And so I call him American African, not African American, because Papa comes first. Now, his mama can call him African American and say Africa comes first, and she's really African and he's really African, although he was born in Portugal. And my grandchildren are half Mexican and then a quarter Luso Portuguese and a quarter Cape Verdean or African from Angola. And so this, is a story coming from the side of I play this old man who doesn't want to change, but finds that he might have to change in order to take care of family. And then, of course, I've got the email address, if you don't mind putting that up, which is overdose awareness 0831 @gmail, which is where people can send me their family members who have passed. And you can also send it to Johnny at johnnywhitaker.com, but I just have to forward it to that email so that the people who are working on that can get it. But I don't mind doing that if that's easier for you.
It's really fantastic. What are some other wonderful things that you have coming up that you might want to share that you're working on, Johnny?
Well, I on the end of this month, or in 2 weeks, I will be in Kanab, Utah at the, let me see, what is that? It's called the Western Legends Heritage and Music Festival. And I filmed Waste 1 and 2, which is Gunsmoke. I did 3 episodes of Gunsmoke, one which I played another orphan waif, and then the other one was a 2-parter where I played an orphan waif, and filmed that in Kanab, Utah. And so if you have filmed in Kanab, Utah, they bring you back for this wonderful event, and lots of fun.
Still doing the Comic Cons and those types of things?
Yes. I'm supposed to be, I believe, at the Salt Lake X-Con or ConX or something like that, but they haven't put my face up in their website, so I'm not going to give them any publicity until I know that they've invited me. But they invited me back in January, and then I wasn't sure because of the film and some other things. And then I asked them again, and they said, well, maybe.
You enjoy doing it, meeting the fans, and hearing their stories?
Tons of fun to see the fans and to meet with them and be able to share stories like I've shared with you and with them. And then hopefully by the middle of next year, I will have 2 versions of my book and my memoirs.
Fantastic.
One which is R-rated, and the other one which is PG, so that Mormons can read it.
So he's got, that volume, and we'll have to have you come back and we can celebrate that on the show, Absolutely. My friend. And, even if it's just a quick chat, we can always do that. I do have a question. What would the Johnny Whitaker of today say to that young boy, wide-eyed, curious boy there?
One, have a discussion with mom and dad about where the money is.
Yeah.
And where it's going, and make sure to put a little bit aside. And two, insisted when I was doing Mystery in Dracula's Castle, Scott and I were doing a couple days a week before we filmed so that we would have school on the set, so we didn't have to have as much school. We banked hours. Anyway, they were preparing for Disney World and had created some of the things for Disney World on the unused sets at Disney Studios. And one of the artists, we had come to watch him do his work, and he, would come on the set and watch us work. But he said, Johnny, you know that Disney is giving 1-for-1 stock options. I said, what? What's a stock option? Had no idea what it was. He says, well, you buy Disney stock, you just say, I believe in you, and Disney will give you one in exchange. So you get 2 for the price of 1. I said, oh, that sounds good. So I went to mom and dad and I said, we should take the money from this film, and half of it, which would be, I made about $15,000 per film for Disney. And, that would have been about $7,500, and take half of it and put it into Disney stock. Well, 1979, Disney stock was at $1 per share. Had I purchased 7,500 shares of Disney stock, I would have received another 7,500 shares, or a total of 15,000 shares of Disney stock. Up and down of Disney stock. Today, it would be worth more than $50 million. So that's what I would tell, and kick him in the pants and tell his parents that they must do that. But then life would have been totally different. And I wouldn't be here with you. I would be on a yacht somewhere in the Maldives.
And I would be on the yacht doing this with you there, which would be very nice. That's it. Never say never. Never say never.
Right, absolutely.
We are still on this planet, right?
as long as I can breathe, and as long as I can, move, I plan on sticking in and sticking around.
This was really a true delight and a sheer pleasure, Johnny. Again, always been an admirer of your work, and I love the added story that we told. So real and affable and authentic, and I think it inspires people to see that you've taken, this extraordinary Hollywood career, and then didn't just have the Hollywood career, but you're doing fabulous things for the community and for the society at large, because it's something that speaks to the essence of who you are. So those two worlds sort of coming together in the way that they do is quite inspiring and a beautiful thing, Johnny. I hope you enjoyed the time with me on the show. Absolutely. As much as I have.
I always like to talk about myself. And have others applaud and me.
Others applaud as well. And I hope, again, the show met whatever expectations you had. And really, it was a terrific, like I say, not interview. These are conversations. This is Cavett, Carson, Merv, Mike, warm conversations. And people, I think, also got a chance to see the essence of who Johnny Whitaker is, a little bit more than just the screen star, and get a deeper appreciation for the man behind all of that body of work, which is very, very cool, my friend. I wish you continued success. Say hi to Rodney for me, and
I shall.
Frank, Celeste's husband, and everybody else. Seems like we've got a lot of
Sure.
mutual friends.
Well, you might see him before I do. So
I was going to say,
whoever talks to him first, we'll
say
send
hello
along.
for each. Just wanted to throw this in. We showed a little bit earlier. It's kind of cool. A grouping of, now there's decades of television there.
Father's
huh?
Day, 1966 or 67, I think.
God, it's
And that's
incredible.
Ron Howard and Clint Howard on the bottom. Ron Howard, of course, on the top. Anissa and myself flanking Stanley Livingston. And above Stanley is his younger brother, Barry. And then we have Billy Mooney on the side above Anissa. And that was for Father's Day, and everybody had a tie.
Yes, I tell you, you guys were fit to be tied. That was really cool to see. We wanted to dig that up. Lots of great memories there. Thank you, Johnny, again for all the time, and you're
Thank
welcome
you, and
back.
please
anytime.
send those links or whatever, because
Yes, we will. Well, now we're going to stay plugged in with each
contact.
other. And I hope that whether you're here on the East Coast or on the West Coast, we get together, break bread. That would be a pleasure as well, my friend.
Absolutely. Anytime. Let me know.
All right. You be well, okay? And
You'll
thanks.
take me out for lunch.
That sounds good. What do you like to eat? Or maybe I
I
shouldn't
eat
ask.
anything that doesn't eat me first.
I was going to say, should I start saving the money now or?
No. I actually just lost almost 70 pounds.
I was going to say, you do look terrific.
A lot thinner.
How did you
And
do it? That's what people are going to want to know. What was the secret?
I cheated.
The Johnny Whitaker diet.
No, I cheated, and I had a gastric sleeve. And I did it just before I left to do a trip to Portugal for my other deal that I'm working on, which is a documentary on the drug policy of Portugal. But I'm not really happy, but I'm happy that I lost weight and that I'm more healthy. I just
You feel better?
don't
More
suggest
energy?
that you take that before you go on a trip overseas.
No. I don't think, that might be a little dicey. Johnny, again, thanks so very much. This was a terrific trip down
God
memory lane.
bless
You as
all of
well.
you and all the fans and friends of the Jim Master Show. Come on back. He's always got a good guest.
That's it, right? I know. Like Johnny Whitaker.
I just had to figure it out.
I tell you, it's like being the weather person, right? It's like,
No, and it's Brady Bunch.
That's right. All the different squares. You're the best, Johnny. Be well.
Thank you.
Continued good health and good spirits, and we'll have you back. And congratulations in advance on all you're doing, but also the book. We'll keep an eye out for that as well.
Thank you.
All right. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Coming to us from California, yes, Hollywood legend in many ways, shapes, and forms, television, film, stage, and so much more. But also, you got a chance to hear a little bit more about the man behind all of that and the incredible work he's doing as a counselor and so much more. And he really went deep, which I thought was fantastic, because there's a lot of people out there who, are in need of support and don't realize that there is support available. And I just think it's really terrific work that he's doing. Don't you? Again, you've known him from so many iconic television series and specials and shows, and working with so many other people of note, and from Family Affair, of course, which people know him from so much, but so many other incredible shows, productions, great stories about, Anissa, who played, of course, his sister Buffy on Family Affair. And yep, they were always all over TV Guide there with Sebastian Cabot, Mr. French, And we talked about Sigmund and General Hospital, and the Russians are coming. And this isn't everything, folks. This was not the entire, epilogue. This was just a little bit scratching the surface of some things you guys might remember, some things you might have forgotten, Napoleon and Samantha as well. And some of the other great ones like Disney's Dracula's Castle, which was a terrific. Another great thing that we talked about was Brian and also Anissa, and some of the others too that are no longer with us that we've sort of paid homage to. Mary Wicks, another fantastic, incredible person as well. And cool stuff. Hope you enjoyed it, gang. If you did, give this episode a like on our YouTube channel, which is Jim Masters TV. Leave a comment on the YouTube channel as well. Matter of fact, there is a like button on the YouTube channel. Kind of looks like this. The show is the Jim Masters Show Live, entertainment, lifestyle, celebrity talk show series. The channel is Jim Masters TV. Give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost anything. We have almost 1,000 episodes with some of your favorite guests and stars and great deep conversations as well. We thank Johnny Whitaker for stopping by the Jim Masters Show as my special guest. Truly a terrific conversation. JohnnyWhitaker.com. Don't forget to go there. Show you a couple of other things just real quick in case they came too fast. JohnnyWhitaker.com is the site. And of course, SkyBlue.movie, and of course peso.org. And if you are struggling or you have some folks that are, email to make contact as well. And always happy to help here at the Jim Masters Show Live series. This is your host, Jim Masters. Hey, we're thanking you for your time this time. Till next time, don't keep it a secret, gang. If you enjoy this conversational entertainment, lifestyle, celebrity talk show series, spread the word. More great guests coming up, more terrific conversations. Thanks for all of your comments, all your support. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Jim Masters TV. The YouTube channel with the Jim Masters Show series is Jim Masters TV. And you can go back and binge watch hundreds and hundreds of episodes of incredible conversations and guests on the YouTube channel as well. For all of us here, thanks for being with us. Thank you for your time this time. Till next time. And we'll see you again real soon. I'll be right here waiting for you as we get the next episode ready of our series, The Jim Masters Show Live series. Take care and be well, friends. Cheers.